Hello, my name is Xavier Mercado, and this is Spearhead Conversations. Today, I'm joined by special guest Diane Carrier, Guy Costello, and Joanna Rizzotto. These three are very impactful people in my life, and throughout my life, they've watched me turn from a boy into a man. Together, they have 84 years of teaching and educating, education. But today is a special one for me. So without further ado, how you guys doing?
Good.
Good
To be here.
Oh yeah. So let's start from your end, your introduction, just so everyone knows, and then from there we will,
Sure. So I'm Diane Carrier, and I teach at Lakeview School, and I teach this year. I teach fourth grade, but I've taught third, fourth, and fifth. And I had the pleasure of having you many moons ago.
Alumni, you know it.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm Guy Costello. I taught for 16 years at Lakeview with Diane and with you as my student in fifth grade.
Awesome.
I left for 3 years to go to serve as vice president of our state union.
Oh, wow.
And came back, and when I came back, I went to the middle school. So I got 5 years in the middle school, but you were gone.
Flag on. Done. Out.
So I only got you once.
And my name is Joanna Rizzotto. I've been a teacher for 27 years, 6 down in Kenosha, and the others, 21 in South Milwaukee. I do alternative education now. Back in the day, I used to do more English. And you and I were together through your high school years.
Aww.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
I love you three. You have seen the evolution of Xavier.
Hey.
But before we go on, I want to do this. I love you guys. So yeah, I'm very excited. We got you on the platform today. We have a lot of conversation to go through. But I really want to take it in depth into who you are. So with that being said, let's jump in.
Okay.
All right. We'll start off with you, Diane. Where were you born?
Ooh, I was born in Cudahy.
God bless you.
At Trinity Hospital.
Oh, wow.
Technically, South Milwaukee. So I grew up in South Milwaukee, went to school in South Milwaukee. All the way up through high school, I was in South Milwaukee. And then I got a job and started teaching in South Milwaukee. And I lived in South Milwaukee for many years. And then when I got married, we bought a house right in Oak Creek. It's literally 5 minutes across the border. So I am so South Milwaukee.
Yeah.
It's not even funny.
There you go.
Like I'm probably in South Milwaukee more than I am.
In Oak Creek?
Yes, for sure. Because, think of Milwaukee Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Moran's.
Yep.
We've got the Sausage Company.
Definitely.
Mari's Flowers. Mm-hmm. Now there's Bakehouse 23.
I know. I just heard of that one.
Oh my gosh, you have to go there. It's so good. Yeah. And the tap room and just other places that I frequent. So, yeah, I spend a lot of time in South Milwaukee. Plus, I'm at Grant Park a lot. I see Guy Costello there a lot.
I was just there today.
Oh, you were? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm retired. You two are working. I'm kicking back and taking it easy.
Not for long.
Costello, where were you born?
I was born in Ithaca, New York.
Ithaca.
Yeah, the Finger Lakes of upstate New York.
There we go.
And that's how I became a Yankee fan, which is
that's right.
Has bonded Xavier and I.
That's all. We go every
fifth grade and forever.
Yep, fifth grade. I told for those that don't know, I told Mr. Costello when I graduated from his class of 2000. Thank you. I told him when the Yankees come to town, we will go to a baseball game, and
we did.
Yeah, we did. And it's been going strong since 2014.
Yeah, was that? That was probably the first one we went
Yeah,
to
to
together.
Derek Jeter, the farewell tour.
Jeter.
It was on Mother's Day. I remember it.
And your
Bam.
brother with the Yankee flag.
Yep, he had the big, huge flag. But I've always loved you because in class, you brought so much New York into the classroom. I remember recesses, we'd play stickball. You taught us how to play stickball outside.
I don't even remember that.
Oh, man. How about you, Miss Rizzotto?
I was born in Kenosha.
Kenosha. Tremper.
Yeah, that's where I went to high school. So I was born in Kenosha, and then I came up to school at UW Milwaukee, and that's where I got my little flavor for Milwaukee. And so I've lived in Milwaukee since I left home for college.
Yeah.
But I did teach in Kenosha, but I would commute from Milwaukee to Kenosha those years.
Man.
I know. And then when I had Dominic and started breastfeeding and stuff, I couldn't.
Let's just be grateful you didn't have the gas prices that we have right now.
And so then I was no longer interested in the commute, and I came up to South Milwaukee to teach.
Look at that.
So, yeah, and my commute turned to like 7 minutes. So
That's right.
that was really nice.
Man. Good old South Milwaukee. Oh, man. How was the childhood?
Oh, I was one of 7.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. And my mom stayed home with us kids. When you have 7, you kind of have to. And we're all like a year apart.
Yeah.
So it was one after the other.
Oh,
7.
goodness.
Yeah. So, and my dad was a plumber. So my dad went and worked, and then my mom stayed home with us. I had a fabulous childhood.
Yeah.
We had an instant football team.
Yeah.
We played base runner in our front yard. Like, we had the path.
Yep.
We always did Little League. My parents were, for many years, they were the candy, you know how you sold candy bars?
Yeah.
When you're on Little League, you're obligated to sell the candy bars. My parents would be the managers of that.
Yeah.
So every year, a semi-truck would pull up to the house, and we would get all these volunteers, and we'd unload these candy bars into the basement through the window.
Oh, wow.
But they made a roller, like a conveyor belt type thing.
Yeah.
And we would just unload these candy bars. So we were really involved in baseball my whole growing up. And I was pretty good at it. I was pretty good at softball. I was
There you
made
go.
the all-star team. So yeah, I feel like I had a really nice childhood.
Yeah.
I enjoyed growing up in South Milwaukee and doing what I did.
I enjoyed South Milwaukee. I remember playing the Little League, the Cubs, the good old Cubs. And I played AAA. I never played AA. I played AAA, and then I got called up to the majors. You know what I mean? And that's when I was on the Orioles. But it was fun.
Yeah.
How about you, Costello? How was your childhood?
Well, I want Diane to know I bought a hell of a lot of those candy bars over the 24 years.
The caramel was great.
Oh, yeah.
I tended to go for the almond, but
Oh,
I probably still have some somewhere in my house. I was very lucky. I had a wonderful childhood. Ithaca, New York was a great place to grow up. And the 60s were a great time to grow up.
Yeah.
You know, I think of the kind of equality of that time.
Oh,
People
okay.
weren't that different. There wasn't the sort of disparity of the haves and have-nots. I mean, most people were all right here
Yeah.
in the middle, not that different, you know? And you could go anywhere. You could ride your bike. You could go in the woods. You could go downtown. It was just a wonderful time. And
Yeah.
sports and being outside a lot. I was very lucky, very lucky.
We were, my family, I love my mom for this, but I'm very grateful for this. We moved at a young age to South Milwaukee. You were my first teacher in South Milwaukee. Lakeview was down the block from my house. But in the neighborhood I grew up in, it was just a hub of all different type of nationalities, cultures. It was a melting pot. It reminded me a lot of New York. Low-income housing, but I'm very proud of where I came from through there. You know, it set a foundation going forward with my life, and I still have lifelong friends that I'm friends with till today. And I think that is truly a special thing about South Milwaukee for me. So I'm just listening to how you said it. It's all together. That's how I felt growing up.
Good.
Me
Good
too.
thing.
Yeah. How about you, Miss?
Myself, I'm like, how would I describe my childhood? I was one of 6, kind of in the middle. And I don't know, like, I think it was fine. I feel like I had a lot of responsibility,
Yeah.
As a child, but no complaints. But I have always, anyone who knows me, I've always kind of like parented my mom.
Yeah.
And so that I think about. I had a lot of responsibilities. I liked working. I liked working from a young age. Like I always was doing something, like I had a paper route.
Yeah.
And then I babysat for just about everybody. I liked to make money and have my own money.
That's right. Independent.
Where can
Right.
I ask you something? Where were you in the 6?
I'm number
curious where
3.
you were in the 7. You were 3.
I'm 3.
You're 3.
So you're one of the big sisters.
Yeah.
I was the second youngest. So yeah, I'm not going to say I was babied, but I feel like by the time my parents got to
They were
raising-
relaxed.
They were relaxed and chill.
Right.
And we grew up, we were right down 9th Avenue. So we had the woods we had the tracks right behind our house. And then we had all these woods. And there was a pond back there. Right now where Franciscan Villa is, there was a pond. And we would play back there. Like I totally hear it was so relaxed. We were outside all the time. We played kick the can. It was endless playing in our neighborhood. We had a neighborhood full of kids my age, little younger, and a little older. It was so fun.
Talking about where you lived, they're redoing that whole area by Columbia. They've like revamped that part of
Yes.
South Milwaukee, and I'm like, the other day I was driving through, and I'm like, holy
It
cow!
actually you're talking about when you go over the tracks.
Yeah,
and it looks really kind of nice.
Yeah, they got the storage units there now across the street. I think that's been a business that has been there
for a
a
long,
long time, and they've grown. But to see their growth is holy.
Yeah.
Now it's all they know what they're doing.
It's so much better to drive that way now than, 20 years ago.
No, I'm telling you, we used to hop over fences and me and Adrian Dills. I don't know if you remember Adrian Dills, but we used to do our thing. We used to do our thing. Can't put too much of that out there. So, what triggered your passion for education?
I think I tell different pieces of this in different places, but I think I have always been a nurturer. And when I was saying I did all these jobs, I babysat for lots of people because I enjoyed it, And so it started young. First I remember the only thing I wanted to be was a mom. That is what I would tell people. And they'd be like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd say, a mom.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, it did become teaching, where I would say I knew I wanted to be a teacher. But part of that did come from, I share the story that, my dad is from Puerto Rico, and he went up to 4th grade education in Puerto Rico. Like, you didn't continue on.
Oh, yeah.
Even beyond 6th grade, I think, was the norm. And so at the time when I was in 4th grade, my dad was going to the Spanish Center to work toward his GED.
Gotcha.
And so I would be helping him with his
Homework?
And
Yeah.
so I was like, we both in 4th grade.
Yo, what up, Dad?
Right. And he would tell me, he'd be like, oh, you would be a good teacher. You would be a good teacher. And so that's part of it. But really then I just always, I knew it. I felt it. And no one in my family had, I'm a 1st generation high school graduate. Like neither of my parents graduated from high school. Nobody went to college.
Yeah.
It was just something that I kind of like parroted, when I'd be like, I want to be a teacher. And then, I don't know, I think a high school counselor was like, well, if you really want to do that, you'll have to go to college. And I'm like, okay, well, how do you do that?
Okay.
And I remember that journey was a little interesting to me too, because I'm very serious. Like I was like, okay, how do you do that? And she like helped me with the application, but I didn't know anything about like financial aid or how you would pay for it and whatever. And literally my mom would tell me that I couldn't go to college. She'd be like, you don't go to college. That's for rich bitches. Rich bitches up in here. We ain't doing that. And so, there was a woman at my school who was like a aide, like the library aide, but who I also just knew, like I was friends with her son and we went to the same church.
Yeah.
And she ended up putting my name in for a scholarship. That was no strings attached. Like it was cash. There was an old man in our town who owned jewelry stores, and he was giving money to kids who were average students. Yeah. So even that, like you only needed a C average to get Mr. Garb's money. And anyway, she had put my name in for that, and that like I think it was $3,000, and that is what I used as like a down payment and everything. And I remember looking at that check because it was just a check. Like a lot of scholarships, you got to like show your grades first and this and that. And I remember thinking like, I can buy me a car with this.
There we go.
Or I can go to whatever. And so anyway, more of a story there. But then, then I really did make it to college to be a teacher.
And here you are.
And here I am.
How about you, Costello?
I was sitting here thinking about it as Joanna was talking. My dad was a teacher.
Okay.
But almost more so, I have this very strong memory, and there were just two of us growing up, me and an older sister. And we would, after dinner, and he often cooked. He was a teacher. He got home early, and he'd make dinner. But like after dinner, we'd sit and talk about things going on in the world.
Yeah.
And in the country. And he was like, Roosevelt, Kennedy, Democrat. And so we'd just talk about things. And it just got me interested.
Yeah.
And I had thought about going to teaching initially, but then I did some other work. I did union work for a while. I worked with the Farm Workers Union and another union and some organizing work in Chicago. But I think it's a combination of those two things.
Yeah.
Then my sister became a teacher. I mean, it kind of all added to it. But more, I think it was just that thing of talking about the world as a little kid and being respected that way.
Yeah.
And I think it helped form some things for me too as a teacher.
That's awesome. How about you, Miss Carrie?
I too was thinking, where did it begin for me? It probably began in my actual school experience. I loved school.
Yeah.
But I loved the social. I loved being with the kids, and I was a goofball, and I liked attention, and I loved my teachers. It was never negative or bad or hurtful. It was always funny. And but then, do you remember the Honackis? Mr. Honacki, Darren Honacki, Debbie Honacki. Mr. Honacki taught Fayed, right?
Fayed and health.
Yes.
Yeah, he was an elementary gym teacher.
I don't.
You know what? You might have been out. You've been out for a while, so you probably don't know him. But his mom, they moved across the street from us. Debbie and Dave Honacki moved across the street from us.
Yeah.
And they were a young couple, and they started to have kids. Darren was the first one. And I babysat for them. Like, he was just, when they moved in, he was probably maybe one. And then soon after, Diane Honacki was born. And I babysat those two forever and a day. And then I would babysit them and their cousins. And then they took me on vacations. And I was a caretaker, and I liked to organize. And I was a playground director every summer. That's just what I did. I love being around kids. Like, that's the thing. And I even today, like, I love being around my nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
They are, I hate to say this, but I'd rather be with them than any of my siblings. It's true.
Yeah.
I just love the younger people.
Yeah.
I just love hanging out with them. So I think that's how it kind of started for me.
Wow. Well, the education from, like, especially going when I was that young and I went to Lakeview, you two made it. So it was, for me, to not really feel understood because of the type of student I was. I mean, we both know all three of you know what type of student I was. I had a lot of high energy, and you guys were really, really patient with me.
Really? I never noticed that.
Yeah,
about
you know?
Xavier.
I saw a charismatic kid.
Yeah,
That's what
I
I
agree.
remember.
Yeah.
You say you were all over the place. I just remember you were high energy, but you just had this charisma. You were liked. People liked you. You were funny.
Yeah.
You were fun.
Yeah.
Like,
And
I saw
felt
all
that-
positive.
And I felt that too. I mean, you couldn't help but feel your energy.
Yeah, for sure.
That was all over the place.
I'm
But
here.
you're immediately just charming. How can you not like Xavier?
Yes.
I mean, and seriously, I remember thinking, he's battling this stuff now, but when he gets older,
Yeah.
this could really work to his advantage to have that kind of energy
It really
and
has.
charisma. And it has. I think it has very much.
Well, and hearing everybody talk their background, it makes sense. I could hear in all of us pieces of you. Like now, like again, I know these guys, I know you, but now I can even hear more the connection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or what it,
I love
what
how,
it
like,
was.
because you three, somehow you have this feeling of people you need in your life to ground you. Because I mean, I'm blessed enough because most people don't have what I have, but the way I am as a person in making connections, I'm really one, if we strike it off the right way, you have a friend for life. And I love people. You know what I mean? It's a strength and it's a weakness, but overall it's something I've learned to hone. And just with that, having you three in front of me right now, this is like success to me.
Yeah.
Your careers have stood out, and I've been proud to say I was a student of yours. So I love you guys. You'll hear that
Well,
throughout
and
the interview.
that goes two ways. I was always, how we would run into each other all the time around town.
Yes.
I was so proud when you would come up and hug me. My friends are with me, and this student that I had so many years ago, for the last how many years, every time I see you, you come up and you're like, you touch base and you hug me, and I'm like, this is my student. This is my student. So that goes both ways. It really does.
At what point, you guys have been, you're decorated in education at South Milwaukee, but when did you get your foot in the door with becoming an educator?
Okay, so I graduated. I was 22.
Yep.
No, I was 21. No, I was 22. And that was back in the day. So I applied in South Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I walked into each school. That was back when we didn't have or whatever it's even
internet.
called. Yeah, we didn't have the internet.
Yeah.
Like, I hit the pavement. I had pretty resumes. They smelled pretty, and they were on pretty marbly blue paper. And I just hit the pavement. Now, I had a couple advantages. One is I was born and raised in South Milwaukee.
Yes.
I knew a lot of people. My parents were very involved in the athletic program and all the things because I was the second youngest, all my older siblings, they were all athletes, most of them, and they were involved in a lot of things. So we knew a lot of people. And then I was a playground director. So I feel like I had so many. I got in pretty
So many,
quickly.
yeah.
I mean, I did.
Yeah.
I had to interview, of course. I mean,
of course.
I interviewed, and I feel like I knocked it out of the park. I interviewed with Mike Bigley and
Mr. Bigley.
and Andy Heinowski, and I just felt like Mike and I I think we spoke the same language.
Well, Mr. Bigley was next door to your class when I was in class.
Yeah.
Yep. It was, and then you were all the way at the ending of the hall. You know who I seen the other day at Lakeview? Miss Hip.
Yes.
And now she's a substitute teacher, but she was my 4th grade teacher. And I always remember her class because of Vince Condella.
Oh my God.
Because we did weather in her class. And she also taught us how to write cursive, which is, man, I don't know if they teach it in school. Someone told me they don't, but I'm just in my head, I'm like, why would you not teach cursive? Such a beautiful art. We could say that, you know. But man, how about you? How did you get your foot in the door?
Well, you know, I'd always thought about being a teacher, but then other things were kind of taking me in other directions. And working with the farm workers, the boycotts around the country, and in California and in Chicago, the work I did, but still kept thinking about being a teacher. And then after my first daughter was born, who graduated with you.
That's
Leah,
right.
You know.
Leah.
I just started thinking, wow, well, I got to figure this out. I got to make a life with this. And how can I do that? I like the political work, but I want something more permanent. I've always loved teaching. And so I went back to school. So I went back to school in my 30s and got my teaching certification. And went to a job fair on Michigan Avenue in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
There was a recruiter from the Milwaukee MPS.
Yeah.
But he was there to recruit teachers of color.
Yeah.
But he had this sort of side gig to also get people for some of the suburban schools.
Yeah.
So he gave me 2 things, one for Whitefish Bay, one for South Milwaukee. And I got interviews with both. And I have to say, you know, thank God I didn't get the job in Whitefish Bay because that's the one I had first. But I learned a lot from it. The second one with Andy Hanowski and Gary Schumacher, I think. And I got the job. And so I didn't start teaching till I was, I had to figure it out, 36.
Wow.
So I was like 15 years behind at least Diane.
What was your first year at Lakeview?
91. Fall of 91.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was born in 89, just to put perspective, my people.
Yeah. You and Leah.
Love you.
Yeah.
I graduated high school in 91.
There we go.
Is my cane somewhere near here?
How are you, Joanna?
Well, okay, I kind of told some of it before. So I went to UW Milwaukee, and I actually was in something that was called the Minority Early Teaching Contract Program that was supposed to guarantee a teaching contract to minority candidates in Milwaukee Public Schools.
Okay.
And so I did that program, loved it, and had my heart completely set on working in Milwaukee Public Schools. And then there really were no positions. This was a time where it was saturated with English
People
positions.
were getting laid off.
Yes,
Yeah.
It was saturated in English and social studies. And so I was bummed about that. Interesting thing is I interviewed at South Milwaukee at that time, was not offered the job, and then got a call like during the summer from my former principal at my high school. So again, this is before the internet. And I had connections with a couple of my teachers from high school still. So they knew. And so he called me and was like, hey, I heard you're graduating with an English degree. Would you like to come interview for this job?
Wow.
And I was like, sure. And so I remember it was the craziest thing because I went and interviewed with a bunch of my, I loved English. So these were my teachers that I really liked. They were all, and I remember going home and saying to Ryan, he's like, how'd it go? I'm like, well, it felt like a reunion. Like they didn't ask me any questions about teaching, but you know what I mean? I'm like, so I don't know if it was like, because what I had learned from the South Milwaukee thing that I didn't get was that whole thing of like, they just ask us, they have to interview 3 people. Because, so I'm like, maybe I was just the person, because they really didn't ask me any questions about teaching. I'm like, maybe I was just the person they threw in there. But then, like,
Get it.
during that conversation, then the principal called and offered me the job. So I got to start out in my first job in my high school with my old teachers.
Wow.
And I thought that really was amazing. It was
That
a great
is
way to
awesome.
start because I knew the building, I knew the people, and they, teachers are great. They really took care of me.
They took you under the wing.
and helped me and made sure I was a strong union member right off the bat. They had me on the picket line
good.
right away.
That is so
and so,
great.
right, I did that. And then years later, it was again my Kenosha connection. Dick Regner was the principal at the high school in South Milwaukee.
Right.
He had been my principal when I was a student. And then when I was a teacher, he was a district administrator. And so I had run into him and he was like, we need your thing up in South Milwaukee. Because I had always done this at-risk kind of stuff. And so he brought me over to South Milwaukee High School in 2002.
Oh, snappy. Oh, I was just in time. I came in 03 to 04.
Okay.
And that was the first year you were setting up your Read 180,
Read 180.
program. And then I slid right in there. I didn't want to be in that. I was like, I put up this fight. I'm like, I'm not dumb. I can read.
Yep.
And, once you get in the class, then I met you, and then you made it homely.
Well, right. It was like this, and again, that's kind of like schools position things poorly.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, kids, you have to be here because of this score. Yeah, nobody wants to do that. And so, right.
What has been most important to you since you started teaching?
Oh, what's always been most important to me is my students' happiness.
Okay.
Just I want people to be happy, feel balanced, love themselves.
I got to say, you always looked out for me. You did protect me. You were my guardian in high school because I know they wanted to give me the boot a couple times. And if it hadn't been because of you, my path would have been a lot different. So I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, well, you help me as much as I help you. And people don't like to hear that. They're uncomfortable. This system is harsh to a lot of people. But that's my whole, I want people to be balanced, healthy. I'm a child advocate and a protector
Yeah, I
of
believe.
children.
What's been most important for you, Costello?
I think the relationships that I'd built and worked at trying to build as a teacher, both with the kids that I worked with and the parents that I worked with. I mean, I think of your mom.
Yeah.
And the relationship I built with her, as we worked together to kind of help you through that year.
Yeah.
And go back to the farm works. This farm work organizer I knew once years ago, he had gotten one of those MacArthur fellowships.
Yep.
And I said, what'd you learn? I saw him later, and he goes, relationships are everything. And that's really stuck with me. And so I've tried to do that. And, as you say, and care about the kids. We need to teach. We need to give them some substance that way. Especially with fifth grade. I felt like, man, that's like life curriculum. You can do fifth grade, you can do life.
Yeah. You know what I don't mean to cut you out. You know what
okay.
I thought was the coolest thing when we went to that first Yankee game together?
Yeah.
And this speaks so much volume on relationships. The picture I brought to that game was a picture of you in class, and I'm right in the front, and you're behind me, and I'm right here, but I'm wearing a Yankee cap. No, I was wearing a Yankee shirt, and you were wearing a Yankee cap.
Oh.
And I always thought that was cool. And I really felt like our fifth grade year off of you talking about relationships, it was a, you know what I mean? It was a male figure, one, and it was somebody who really I saw take their time with me. I remember one time I was having a fit in the bathroom and you came in and, I was just throwing this fit and it was like being on the edge of a building and you talked me down. And then I finally, after crying and I'm like, just it was hard. It was hard through elementary. I'm pretty sure you remember they were Ritalin, Adderall, antidepressants, They were going through all this medication, thinking this is what I needed, and
I'll never forget
Yeah.
one time, Xavier, that I took the kids to lunch
yeah,
and came back, and you were in that, where you were going through all those different drugs. You were so knocked out.
tired.
You were asleep at your desk.
Yep.
And I hadn't noticed that you'd gotten up in line. And they hadn't gotten in line.
Yeah.
And you made a lot of progress through that year.
I did. And it was a learning, but I'm listening to you and how you talk about relationships, and that's a testament to the type of relationship we created together. How about you, Ms. Carrier?
I work really hard, really intentionally try to create a culture in my classroom where kids feel loved. Like we use that word, love.
Yeah.
And they feel valued and they have a voice.
Yeah.
We do family class meetings once a week-ish. Sometimes if things are stressful, we might do it twice a week. They last for about an hour. And it's a time for them to talk about what's on their minds. It could be something at home. Sometimes things come up from home. And then the other kids, it's just magical. Like I live for it. I love it. It's the best hour of my week or 2 hours of my week. It depends on how many times we have to do them. But kids get a chance to lift others.
Yeah.
They get a chance to speak their piece, what has hurt them, what has offended them. Other kids gather around.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful time. So I feel like that's one of the things I'm most proud of. Walking away from that is really difficult because that fills me.
Well, you talk about that, and that right there is what I felt in your class. This type of motherly love, this embracement of me, you know what I mean? Being different and not feeling that way. I felt different, but when I was in your class, the way you taught me, it was like there was no judgment, and I was free to grow.
Yes, and you were free to be who you were.
Wanted to be, and I feel and with a lot of educators right now, when you try to force a relationship or you try to force some type of correction, I'll put it like that. That's not the way. Just take your time out, step to the side, and see what's going on with the student. Because that's one thing you guys all have in common. You stood to the side and you saw me from a different view, and you analyzed, and then you went in, and that's how we created this bond. And I'm so proud of, man. You're retiring this year.
I know.
You just missed the twins.
I know, by 1 year.
Oh my God! I thought you were gonna teach them this year, and then you went up to fourth grade. You went up to fourth grade.
I've been in fourth grade.
You've been in fourth grade.
I've been in fourth grade
Oh my God!
for a while, but we thought we were gonna one more year, and I would have the twins. But yeah, that didn't happen.
Well.
I'm sad about that.
Hey, don't worry.
But what I have appreciated is how you and Sarah and
Jeannie.
Sarah's mom, right?
Jeannie, yeah.
Every for the last 4 years since kindergarten, you guys every year you'll pop into my room for every event.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's open house or whatever else is going on, you guys conferences.
Yep.
Multiple times a year, and the hugs and.
It's a love.
So I feel like I got to know your kids a little bit, but that is unfortunate. Sorry, Xavier.
Is it good? From when you began teaching to now, how do you feel the landscape has changed?
That's a tough one. I'm sure Joanna can go on
Okay,
on about that one.
You can start.
She's the anchor.
Yeah, make her the anchor.
Well, do you want to go?
Yeah, I think you should go last because I think
Okay,
you're gonna
yeah.
you're gonna be. I don't know. You're gonna be the one to this Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
get us on the
There you
bases, and then Joanna will bring it on home. I guess I feel like I think we've gotten so far away from thinking about what is best for kids.
Yeah.
And our priorities are just so whacked. It's exhausting and it's discouraging.
Yeah.
And it's that's my contribution to this. Sorry, it's not a
First
lot,
base,
but
first base. There
First
we go.
base. I'm on first base. Okay,
First
Guy?
You know, I've been out now 8 years, and it's
8
gone
years?
incredibly fast. Yes,
I cannot believe that.
but a couple of things hit me. First of all, what I see these guys have to do right now,
Yeah.
since COVID, during COVID, all of that, I don't know if I could do it. The type of like teaching to a laptop, because for the kids at home and the kids in your class, and I just don't. I have all this respect in the world for them, but even more so now. But I just think that it's just hard it's getting harder and harder for teachers who have the philosophy like these two wonderful women about how you approach students
Yeah.
to teach that way. Because there's so much teach to the test, and there's new curriculum, and you got to do this, and relationships, love, respect, often get pushed down here versus, and I think of before I left elementary,
Yeah.
I was sitting in the teacher's lounge one day. I was talking with, what was the teacher's name? The kindergarten teacher was there. Like they built the school around her, 150 years. She was there. I can't remember her name.
Pop?
No. Whatever. That
okay.
doesn't really make a difference. But I said, her first name was Maureen. I said, Maureen, you know, you've been here 45 years.
Watson.
Maureen Watson. Maureen, you've been here 45 years. You know, what's changed? And she said, well, you know, when I started out in kindergarten, we taught kids their colors and how to hold a pencil and how to draw and how to, you know,
Their
sit in a
colors.
circle, their colors and the
Colors.
alphabet, and to sing songs, and to move down the hallway without smacking into each other, and to be able to sort of to get through a school day, you know, with the sort of personal growth they learned, aside from the subjects. And now I've got a math curriculum, you know. We're doing assessments in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And we aren't doing those other things. And so kids get to second, third grade, and they can't walk in a line together. They can't, it's really hard for them to be still. They don't know their colors. They don't know how to use scissors.
Yeah.
You know, simple things are sort of manipulative things. And I just think it's an example of what was lost from the old days versus now.
Well, and I hear that, and I'm like, right, we've been corporatized.
Yep.
Is one way you could just say
Yeah.
it, you know. And so I'll say we've lost education in terms of the art of teaching and the broad scope of what learning actually is. So how I've really seen that over my career is when I started out, I started out as a 21-year-old with full autonomy. Right? To be like, figure out what you're going to teach, how you're going to teach it. And that is how I remember becoming good friends with my colleagues. Like I said, where they took me under their wing and were like, I use this and this works really. You know, I had a piece of what everybody had. They like gave me all their best stuff. Right? And then I made something from that. And so I'm so thankful that's how I learned to be a teacher. Like I make it all. I can make it all, and I can assess it all, and I can do it all. So that's how it started. And then over the course, it became very technical and told to me and packaged. So there's that. And so in that, I say, like, right, what was lost was actually education. And now even when you hear about education, like on the news or how it's portrayed in the media, We're not actually talking about children and how they develop and how they learn.
Yeah.
It's always about like what is allowed or wasn't allowed, or what do politicians think, or how should the adults be corralled and handled. And so I ask everyone to just think about that. Like, how much do we actually talk about kids and what they're experiencing, and not in the trite way that people are like, we care about the kids. No, like, honestly, like, what does our society know about child development?
Yeah.
What are we using to inform that in the rest of our systems? We don't. That's, to me, what we've lost is we used to really talk about education, and then it got taken away from us in packages. And now it's scary because there are people who come into it who really think like those scores are learning.
Yeah.
And they are not.
They're not. I've never.
They are not.
I've never ever looked at a test. I know me. And I've never looked at a test and said that test defines who I am as a person. And a lot of
It's a product.
you know, it's you know, I text messaged you a little short clip
Yep.
of a video. And in this video it was talking about what has been lost. You know, how schools they used to teach technical type of things, your wood class and, you know, machine class. And little by little, they've taken all of that out. And then they've backdropped on the test scores.
Yeah, it's a narrowing of what can be measured.
And to me, you know, there's so much potential, but not everyone. And I mentioned this, you know, Educators Amplified is in the building. But being on your show, I mentioned that, and I said, you know, not everyone is A, B, C, D. It's just not. It's not the way it is right now. You have to do your homework this day and time to really make that connection with these students.
Well, and I always tell him, he knows I'll get defensive.
Yeah.
Not really, but I'll say, like, and teachers know that.
Yeah.
Teachers know that it is like the 7 kids in the Carrier family. Like, everybody's different, and everybody's going to need something different. But we don't work in a system that aligns with that anymore. Like that, like, again, that's why I say it's really kind of like we will call it like a McDonald's or a Walmart version of it, you know, and parents, you should question it. You know, you definitely should. And teachers are trying to. So again, educators at their heart know that it's not cut and dried, but they work in a system that forces them to do that and does not incentivize them not doing it. So like, we happen to be nice and loving people, but that's not really incentivized.
Yeah. So you know, we're dropping bombs right now, obviously. So I just want to put it out there. What methods have you used to be successful in connecting with your students?
I think the main thing is I believe you. I believe children, you know? And so I remember something that still bothers me now because it happens as an adult. The education profession is pretty paternalistic. So again, like, as an educator, I'm often talked to like, well, you really don't understand, Joanna. If you did, then you'd understand why we, you know, and so that paternalistic.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so I believe children. I believe your experience. When you were telling me how you felt, I wasn't like, oh, you shouldn't really feel that way. No, Mr. So-and-so is really nice to you. I just believe you and be like, hey, that's how you feel. Yeah, that sucks.
I always love that about you.
Right. And so I think a lot of times, anyway, with high school kids in particular, it's just a natural connection. I value their experience. I believe you. I validate who you are. And like, one of my favorite things is, and a way to connect, is to talk to students about their strengths. You know what I mean? And the special thing you see in them.
There you go.
Right. I think that's, and it just comes natural, but I do think that's where connections come from, is that sharing what the special thing you see inside somebody with them.
Costello, during your tenure and your great career as an educator. You said you built relationships with students, but what were some of those methods that?
Well, I think one of the other things I've been thinking about, and it especially relates to you, creating kind of experiences outside of the classroom, or from the, in addition to when did we start? 8 o'clock till 3 o'clock.
Yep.
And it took me 3 years to get a principal to agree to let us take kids to camp.
Oh, wow.
And I finally got a principal who said
That
yes.
was you who got that all started?
Yes, he
Yes.
did, and it's
Do they
still going on. It is still going on.
Now you just need to get the union side going with it
Minikani.
to get paid to do all that.
right.
Camp Minikani.
It's actually a different camp now.
No!
I went there, and I can't even tell you what it was. It was like I don't know.
Well, I bring it up because and I'll never forget this about you, Xavier.
Yeah.
As a kid who, at that age, struggled in the classroom,
Yep.
but had that opportunity with camp
Yeah.
to suddenly like be an example setter
Yeah.
and a leader. As we were talking ahead of time, I was talking about you going up that climbing wall.
Yeah.
It's like it's only been 3 seconds, and Xavier's already at the top of the wall ringing the bell.
Yeah.
But not only that, then you later helped some kid who probably wouldn't have thought they could get up that wall, get up that wall.
Yeah.
And you just needed some place to let your energy go. And but there's other things. And other teachers do other things that way. But I think trying to create some of those opportunities too for kids who give them a chance to shine
Yeah.
in something different.
There's no doubt energy has always been on my side.
Can I just say one other thing about middle? It was very interesting then going to middle school.
Yeah. That's a leap.
Yeah. And, I was proud of like the material that I taught and the things like say about life curriculum in 5th grade. I was proud of that. In middle school, it took me a while, but I finally realized, what I'm teaching in this subject is just going to be gone. It really means next to nothing.
Yeah.
What sort of counts again is helping kids get through this time, not feeling, damaged or hurt or made to be less.
Yeah.
And it's 10 times more important at that level than the content. They're going to get the stuff again in high school. They're going to get it in trade school or at college. But being able to get through middle school healthy, emotionally, is probably the most important thing.
I could talk more about the family class meetings. Like, I feel like that is the thing that really brings my class together.
Yeah.
I also feel like read alouds, like cuddling together. Okay, I'm not cuddling with my kids. Don't get me wrong. They're cuddling. They're on the carpet. They're by my feet, and we're reading a really meaningful chapter book.
Yeah.
And discussing it and just becoming one with it. I don't know. There's something about that brings us together.
Yeah.
And I know that I've had former students say, "Oh my gosh, I remember when we read Where the Red Fern Grows."
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Right? Like, it's just those moments of sitting on the carpet. Like, we don't have to say anything. I can just read, but there are looks exchanged, and there is something magical that happens when you're just together.
You bringing up that book, I'm starting to remember Boxcar Children
Boxcar
books.
Children, yes. Oh my gosh. But the family class meetings, like, I just can't believe if people, I think it's a dying thing, and it makes me so very sad. And I just hope, like, I'm on my way out, and I feel like I'm one of the only people in my building that still does them.
Yeah.
This is something I learned. I can't remember. It was a combination of the tribes training back at the high school many years ago. And then we did some Comer training at Lakeview, and we went to South Dakota and got some training from some other people. And I don't think this is a real thing. It's just something that I am I am such a sensitive person, and I love talking about feelings, and I love reaching kids in that way.
yeah.
And I feel like I have a knack for bringing out and making kids want to talk and make them feel accepted and
Safe.
and safe, and encourage everybody else. That's the key. It's really not about me. I like facilitate this meeting.
Yeah.
It's the kids who do all the comforting. It's the kids who do all of the, the touching and reaching for, and whatever somebody needs. It's the kids doing it, and I just facilitate it. I make it happen. But I also feel like some people are just some teachers are so reactive. Instead of trying to figure out why the child is whatever, let's just say crying. They just don't ask the questions. Or if there's an interaction, I just have witnessed people not even asking questions, trying to get to the bottom of it, but being more reactive. Well, just don't play near each other.
I think
Like-
one of the biggest, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's
but
okay.
I think one of the biggest things that I just grinded my gears growing up is that just talk to me.
Yeah,
Who are you to tell me how I'm feeling?
right.
Who are you to tell me you think this medication is working, but you're not taking this medication? I am. When I'm falling asleep in his class, no one knew I sucked my thumb. Guess what? Ritalin did that. And then did I get made fun of for it? Yeah. Did I know how to handle it? Yeah. That was God-given gift. I never let anyone step on my toes. I always stood 10 tones down, but not talking to me, not taking what I was saying because of my age and because of who I was.
Yeah.
You three are inspiration to me. You are. You are a very strong foundation in my foundation. And, as educators, I feel like it's overlooked, but they're the most important pieces in the development of children that grow to be adults. And the advice I'd give to any educator, understand your students. So as much as you're an inspiration to me, who were inspirations of yours? Starting out with you.
Ooh. Oh, who was an inspiration? Okay, I went to St. John's for elementary school. St. John's was right by Lakeview. It was Catholic school. I went there from first grade to eighth grade, and I had a teacher there, Carol Davis, her name was. It's Brett Venn now. She's still.
Did she teach fourth grade?
She substituted.
There was a teacher, her name was Miss Dardis.
Nope,
Okay.
Shannon Dardis. Nope.
Okay.
She's still teaching, and she's over at Rawson.
Oh, wow.
But this was when I was a kid, when I was in eighth grade. This was my eighth grade teacher.
Oh, okay.
And I think she not that she made it really fun. She was just I was really like, I want to be like her. Like I aspired to be like her.
Yeah.
But I saw her all the time, and I watched her do her craft, and I loved how she did things. I mean, I don't think I thought that at the moment. I was just intrigued by her. Yeah. So I think she was an inspiration. But the other inspiration for me was Debbie Honacki again.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she was, I never saw her in the classroom, but I saw how she was with her two children that I babysat. She was like, just amazing. She was an amazing teacher to her two children. So I kind of glamped onto that too. So those two things were my inspiration.
Costello, how about you? Because you started
Many of 'em.
Yeah, you started off. You had a late start to you
did.
jumping into education.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing my first year teaching. And what really helped me were the people around me. I always used to say, you can come observe me all you want, but where I really learn is where I get to go in like Diane's classroom and watch her, or Joanna's classroom and watch her, or somebody in another school and watch them. You know, a really veteran teacher, you learn, you know? And, but also, I mean, I think of teachers that I had. My second grade teacher, Miss Bishop, it was probably Mrs. Bishop, but taught me to read because she picked up on the fact that I love the stuff with astronauts in the 1960s. I was one of the blackbirds in second grade. I mean, I really couldn't read, you know, with the reading groups and all that. Mm-hmm. And she picked up that I loved stuff about space and wanted to be an astronaut. And all that. And so she would, when we go to the library, she'd go with me and get me books about space. And so it really motivated me to read, and just very caring. So I'd say Miss Bishop, and then my colleagues were wonderful to me.
That's awesome.
I think early inspiration for me, like I said, I did always know I wanted to be a teacher, and I paid attention and liked them all. But in particular, there was a guy in high school. His name was Terry Lawler, and he was an English teacher. And the funny thing is, he was actually never my teacher. It was just like a teacher that I knew, you know, and that when I would say I wanted to be a teacher, then I was his teacher's aide. So that was it too, where I remember watching this guy, you know, and just like like sitting there as like a junior and a senior, because I did it 2 years, and like being fascinated with what he did. And in particular, I liked how he connected with every student, you know, like whether they were really struggling or not, you know, he was fully himself, and he was funny, and he was really caring. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, how does he just know everything? You know, like, because he would just know things. And then, so he was really an inspiration. And then when I started teaching, we actually shared a classroom for a while.
Okay.
And then when I started teaching, I was like, same thing, where I'd be like, how can he just, you know, I'd literally spent time with my notebooks and writing out what I was going to do. And he'd just show up, you know, and be like, yeah, I think we're going to do this today, you know? And I just remember always being like, oh, I can't wait till I can be like that, you know, and just know as much. But yeah, he was just really, really smart and really loving and really funny. And yeah, someone I aspired to be like. And then once I started teaching, there's lots of inspiration, but in particular, Miss Kimber.
Yeah, I love Miss Kimber, past class.
Yep.
I think that was past class.
She's very influential on me and the softer side of me. And so,
now she loves kittens.
Yeah, she always has.
I love all her Facebook
videos.
You know,
I love
people
her
love
videos.
her voice and her cats, and she's an amazing person and was a fantastic educator and spent so much time with me. And the way that, I mean, her and I, we figured out how to keep you all through high school.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
We did. Like, we had to like navigate this system, because it'd be like, you can only take pass once, and you could only be in read 180 once. And like, we would figure out how one of us always would have Xavier. And so that all 4 years of high school.
They really
took care of you.
They took care of me. They really were guardians of mine. That's why I in the beginning of this interview I said, hey, you know, without her, I know they wanted to boot me out. Believe me, I knew.
And it came close.
It came close. And you know, that right there, just the lengths.
Right.
Again, educators, how important they are. You know, I wasn't a bad kid. I was going through a lot, but I wasn't a bad kid. No. I just, you know, I felt misunderstood. There was a lot going in the background. I won't get too much into it, but I struggled. I struggled with my emotions. I struggled with the reality of needing a man in my life for direction. There was this battle going on within me, and nobody could see it. You've seen right through it. You broke down my walls, and then I confided in you, and through that, you, Miss Kimber, the selected few that just they took me in, and they protected me, and I got to walk that stage.
Yay.
You know what I mean? Like but it doesn't end there. And that's the reason why I have like this connection with you guys. And, you know, I feel it's so strong. Yeah. When you started your careers, you had a picture in your head of what success looked like. Now, I know we've gone through what educators face in this landscape right now. But in the beginning, before you had ever stepped foot into an actual classroom and taught a student, what did you feel was success? Let's start off with you.
Oh, I don't know. When you talked about it, I remember the picture I had of myself because I had a picture of like what I was wearing. Like when I'm going to be a teacher, it was like Valley Girl outfits,
Yes,
like mini skirt, puffy. But like I could picture like that's the outfit I'm going to be wearing. So I definitely had this picture of my head of like what my teaching outfit would be. But success, I don't know. I guess it was just to feel the way that I felt when I knew I was in a class where someone really loved me and liked me.
Yep.
You know, so I think that would be it. You know, I'm not about accolades and things out front. Some people find that hard to remember. We were talking to Dr. Shaw about this. I actually am a behind the scenes person in terms of I don't want credit. I don't need credit. I like to just push someone out, you know. So I don't have like a picture of like when my students go to Harvard or anything like that. Like, no.
You just have me coming into your class and bothering you from time to time, like, hey, I'm back.
Yeah, no. So, I think actually that's the biggest accomplishment, I feel like, or success. And I know you said when I started out, but now would be, right, my biggest success is the relationships I have with all these kids. You know, like, you're my friend now. Like, we just talk.
Yeah, we do.
You know, so I love that. Like, to me, that's success. That I have all these wonderful friends in my life that were once my students.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
How about you, Costello?
Wow. Couple of things. One thing I'd forgotten about until we were sitting here. In elementary, I don't know if I did it while you were in there, but I had like this Mr. Costello's pledge. You had to I got the kids to sign this thing at the end of the school year. And it was always have a book, you know, that you're reading. Always vote when you get to be an adult. Be thoughtful to others, you know. And there are some. Now I've even forgotten what's on the list. But I think that's the thing that gives me the greatest goodness in my heart is when, as you say, you run across. Now I see you all the time, but and that's wonderful. Yeah. But sometimes you haven't seen people for years. You know. I just went to a graduation party for a young woman who graduated from UWM, who was a student in middle school, and she's going to be a social worker.
There you go.
You know, she's going to make a difference in people's lives.
That's so awesome.
So you see that, or you know, you're walking somewhere, hey, Mr. C, you know, and it's like some 6'3" kid who you haven't seen it forever, but you know their face. Yeah. And then you talk with them, and you hear like a student is a police officer in South Milwaukee, or it's being successful. Your students being successful, being good people, taking that from you and navigating life well. Gives me a lot of joy.
That's a great way before stepping foot and teaching your own to think about. And I mean, like I say, I feel, you know, and this is from a student standpoint, I feel like it's overlooked, and it shouldn't be. Our educators deal with a lot. I mean, we just came out of a pandemic. You know, I'm glad to see that things are starting to go back the way they were, but I mean, you guys even know, and I mean, you're in the trenches, you're there, you know, there's a lot of work to wrap around. So how about you, before you stepped into a class, what did you feel was success?
I'm racking my brain to like go to that place
Yeah.
And I can't get there. I can tell you, like, I feel like I've got it now.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like it's what you had said. When you have former students reach out, like, I feel like I've done something right. Yeah. I recently had, does anybody remember Anthony Cook, Haley Cook? They went to Lakeview. Anthony is in the service, and he just came home for a week. And Haley, his sister, reached out and said, hey, can we pop over to Lakeview and see you? And I'm like, absolutely. So I gave her some times. Well, it didn't work out this time.
Okay.
But I was like, the fact that they reached out, and then we have been in touch since, like, they're going to make sure next time he's in town, we'll meet up somewhere. But that, to me, like, man, for them to reach out to me, like, of all the people, they reached out to me. That just means everything.
Yeah. You all are a part of a union. It's been brought up throughout this interview, but we haven't gone into it. So I'm gonna, because this is what you've represented throughout your careers in education. You've held some pretty high positions in this union. Let's first start off by, what is the name of your union?
The South Milwaukee Education Association, SMEA, is
Which
our local.
Statewide is part of the Wisconsin Education Association.
And that's
Council. No, WEAC.
WEAC.
Which you'll hear, yeah. We're part of WEAC.
And then national is the National Education Association.
So it's like
all-
up here, then we kind of scale down.
Yeah.
to our little local.
There
South
we go.
Milwaukee Education Association.
How has that been, through these representations of educators, some of the things you've faced? I can't express, because I still think people don't understand where our education has gone and the battles that are being fought behind the scenes that no one is seeing. There's a lot of pressure on teachers from what I've gathered. I talk to you very often.
Yes.
I listen into the episodes. But with your union, do you feel that your unions have represented you in the best way possible?
I feel like all the things that we're talking about, all the things that are near and dear to your heart,
Yeah.
are only going to happen because our union makes it happen. It's not going to happen through our leaders in our districts. It's just not. It's going to happen because the association makes it happen.
Yeah.
So it's a necessity, and we've got to keep it going.
Yeah.
And that's why we work our asses off to make sure when we have people come in, new people, we reach out to them and get them on board.
Yeah.
Because it's really in everybody's best interest
Yeah.
that they're part of this.
I think so many people today really have no idea what a union is. They have these sort of stereotypes of a union.
Yeah.
Whether it's a farm worker union or a teacher union or a steel workers union, they really don't know. And I've always believed that at the very heart of it, the very core, is a union gives you a voice in a place of work.
Yep.
It's not always going to get you everything that you want and need, but it assures you a level of a voice, to be heard, to be able to speak up, to be able to do the things that need to be done, and take the positions that we have to for our students and ourselves, respect for ourselves. And I'm very proud of the fact, I've been gone 8 years, but South Milwaukee, in a large part because of these two women and a few other women who are still there, is one of the strongest locals in the state of Wisconsin, as far as people still being members, as far as our members speaking up, as far as going to demonstrations and things. It's not been an easy time. And SMEA, thanks to these two, has really stood strong. I'm very proud of it.
Well, union work is some of my most gratifying work as a professional. So there's obviously what I do in the classroom is awesome, and I love it. But this is the way that I get to advocate for my profession, like the things that I was talking about before, where I'm like, here's how learning's been defined, and this is what they think is important. And so through my union is how we get to, again, speak as teachers, and lead with love and advocate. And, it's interesting, again, I'm just reflecting on the conversation in terms of, too, even when I told you early in the conversation around something like you identify me as a protector. And I said something like, I'm protective of people and their spirit and who they really are. And that is what I do in my union. Yeah. I work with people in some of the most challenging problems they've been through as a professional. And so I love it too, that it brings me a whole, I see the whole picture of who you are as a person, who you are as a professional, how you are in this system, how this system functions and how it could function better. So it's a huge part of my identity. And I think it's underappreciated or overlooked or not understood.
Misunderstood or not understood.
Right.
I was going to say ununderstood, but didn't really make sense.
So it's critical, in every profession, there is an organization of professionals who kind of set the standards for that profession. And actually this is why things have gone backwards for children, is as unions and teachers unions in particular have been weakened, you don't have that collective voice talking about the profession and setting the standards for the profession. Does that sound too academic to you?
Not
you
at all.
Feeling it? You
no,
get
I
it?
do. I mean, I know that I can never miss an event because I always get a text from you like, get down to the Capitol right now.
It's organizing, and
Get to this-
organizing is right through people's values.
Yeah.
The three of us were just at the Capitol 2 weeks
Together.
ago.
Well, that's what I told him.
Yeah.
He was busy. I invited him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter had a dance recital. My daughter and son had dance recitals, so
Yeah.
Cool.
I would have been up there. You would have threw me a picket sign. I would have been bam, bam.
We had banners, big banners.
Oh, I believe it.
Big, beautiful banners.
I saw her interviewing, and they got a picture of her. I'm like, okay, Miss Rizzotto.
I'm telling you, though, that microphone ruins it. People get intimidated when they see the microphone. So,
Yeah. Well, through time, I mean, you'll get the earpiece and you won't need the, through time. I'm just saying. What do you hope to leave? Diane, you're retiring.
Yes.
And this has been 33 years of
33 years.
education.
At Lakeview.
Yep. Lakeview. What do you hope to leave behind as a legacy?
I just hope that people, when they think about me, they think about a person who just gave their soul, like their whole soul, to the kids. I love these kids, and I hope that's what I leave behind. I just have this heart full of love for these kids.
Yeah.
No matter who they are, there's nobody I don't like.
Yeah.
I love these kids. I think each one has something, and it's something that needs to be celebrated.
Yeah. How about you, Mr. Costello?
I think what I was talking about before, that as you see students that you had years ago and you see them doing well and they share with you the impact that you had on their lives.
Yeah.
And you meet their kids,
Yes.
and you realize how long you've been teaching.
We here?
Yes.
It's there was just on Facebook out of nowhere a kid. She wasn't even in my classroom. She was in the other fifth grade classroom.
Yeah.
She made a point of noting she's some type of writing she's doing now, and she was talking about how, I want to thank this teacher and Mr. Costello for believing in me, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today. Man, that's worth it.
I think I know whose post that was.
You probably do.
Her name Kaya?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, he was my teacher first. No,
He's my Costello.
he's my Costello. How about you, Miss Rizzotto?
Well, again, I don't tend to think in terms of legacy. I'm like here and now. In the here and now, I want you to feel that I treated you well. And I do apologize to any students that I haven't made feel well. And because earlier in my career, I wasn't as, good at what I'm doing.
I can't say not understanding, but you blunt. I mean,
Yeah. I will say I used to be more harsh. But in general, that is what I hope, that you just know that you were right, liked, appreciated. I do feel, I hope, like, I don't think I'm someone who, like, has favorites. Like, everybody feels whatever. Well,
I just want to put this in. She's saying that right now, but we all know who the golden child is.
I want to just tell one other story that's on my mind. You were talking about graduating and how Joanna got you through. Because of my daughter being the same age, I was at that graduation.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget you going across that stage.
Yeah.
And getting that diploma and putting your fist up. And you got one of the biggest cheers out of that crowd.
It was.
And the people pulling for you.
Yeah.
And so glad, so proud of you, so happy for you to see you reaching that point. That's just, I thought it embodied a lot of things that educators try to do. And
one of my proudest moments was walking across that stage and how symbolic it was for me. That told myself I beat the odds.
You had the Ahana stole
I did. You paid for my cap and gown. You also paid for my yearbook. And I will always be appreciative of that because
Joanna.
I don't remember.
She don't remember, but I do.
Yes.
And in that moment, walking across that stage, a lot of people counted me out, and being able to, it was a moment. I am so proud to have you guys here with me. It has meant the world to me to have this sit down with you. You are such big pieces in my life. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do for this. You're retiring. Your legacy is here. Your legacy is here. You know what I mean? You're still continuing. And I know the woman you are, there's no hold bars. And with each and every one of you, you've given me something that nobody else could have given. And to reflect on that through this time, I just want to say thank you for coming on, and I love you, and you will always be near and dear to my heart, and I want you to understand. I love you.
I love you too, Xavier.
No, I love you, and thanks for letting us tell our story.
Yeah,
Be interested.
It's been an honor.
Yeah,
it's been great.
So with that being said, Spearhead out.
All right.